Hi, welcome to the end of this week. It's Friday, it's day 7 on the reading plan, and we're just finishing Matthew chapter 5. And as we get to the end of Matthew chapter 5, there's this last verse where it says, "You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." And that can seem quite a bewildering concept. It's like, how can I be perfect? How can I be like God in that sense? And as I was thinking of that, I was looking at the word perfect, what it means, and it's that idea of completeness, wholeness, having integrity. And again, it can feel very lofty, but actually, as you think about it, this is what we were created for. Um, if you think back to the Garden of Eden, this is how Adam was created. And in a sense, it's not that, in a sense, he was perfect in the sense, I guess, of doing everything right, but he was without sin and without guile. And as we think through the things that have been shared in Matthew chapter 5 already, you realize what God is calling us to do is to return to that place of what was intended for us, to be like him. It says in Genesis that we were made in the image of God, and that's not that we were God, but we carry those characteristics. And thankfully, the work of Christ is to come and cleanse us, forgive us, and to empower us to live the life that he wants. And just as we were looking yesterday about the marks of his kingdom and how we live, just so we see this now. So you see it when it talks about lust and the way we shouldn't lust after people because of what it does in the heart. And the same about divorce, where it's saying, you can't just throw someone away. And I think for me, what it's speaking of there is about, it's not just about the superficial, it's not just about the external, or even about what you can get away with. Because again, someone could have said, well, there's a law and I'm allowed to do this, or I haven't really done anything in terms of sexual immorality. But God is saying, well, what's going on in your heart? I want you not just to tick the boxes, but to actually have a good heart, a right heart. And actually, when you think about it, that's what he loved about David, a man after his own heart. And then again, just when it talks about oaths, it's talking about don't make oaths and break them, really, because again, our yes should be yes and our no should be no. We shouldn't be people who can't be trusted, but we should be trustworthy people. And also loving your enemies is that symbolic of we as God's people need to be different from the world, because again, everyone loves those who love them, but who loves those who persecute them? And this ultimately was the example of Christ as well, that he loved those. It says, even when we were sinners, Christ died for us, that we were enemies of God, and yet Christ died for us. And so we need to follow the example of Christ, and it's not easy. But that's why we need to continue to draw close to him and be renewed by the Spirit in our lives, in our hearts, in our minds, so that we can live like him and live as we were intended to live. And I think that's my exhortation at the end of this passage, is to say, don't accept a life that is less than what God has intended for you, but to seek to live the life that God has called you to.